Welcome to the Movie Pro Podcast.
This podcast may contain rambling, foolishness, and spoilers. Duh.
So hello and welcome to our first ever movie podcast.
Hello.
With me, your host, one of the co-hosts. My name's Martin Cowan, and I'm here with my very good, in fact, best friend.
That's right, Stewart Cinnamon. Hello, nice to meet you all. Not really meeting you all, but you know what? This is a podcast. Let's go for it. Love it.
It is a podcast. It's cool. I'm excited. It's something I've been looking forward to doing for a while. So yeah, it's going to be cool. We're going to be discussing movies, taking them apart, and more or less just showing our passion for films for both movie lovers.
Yeah.
So
both cinema card holders for many years. Also,
That's right.
I used to work in cinemas, so there we go. We've got that going for us. I'm sure some stories about that will come up throughout our time podcasting. So
Exactly.
yeah, stay tuned.
We have
for
many.
those.
Exactly. We have many years of movie watching, so we have quite a lot of experience. So, without further ado, we're just gonna get on with our podcast and move into our first section,
Yes.
which is Stu's News.
Yes, Stu's News. That is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be bringing you some news that has been happening in the land of Hollywood this week. So the first one that I'm going to kick it off with is Disney have announced that this week they're going to remake, as they've been doing with all their classic films, Hercules. Now,
Awesome.
I had to think about this, and I had a long think about this. And I was thinking about casting. And you know how when you cast these films, people always have people who they have in mind. Like when they did Beauty and the Beast and Belle got cast as Emma Watson, people were like, oh my goodness, it's perfect casting. Now I thought, hear me out here, I don't know what you think about this, but for Hercules, how about Zac Efron?
Oh, that's
Zac
interesting.
Efron.
That's not what I thought you were gonna say.
No,
Zac Efron.
Zac Efron, he can sing.
It could work.
He's a muscly
yeah.
boy.
He is a muscly boy.
There you go.
That could work. It could work. It's an interesting. It's interesting. My personal take on who I would cast as Hercules would be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
He's already done it.
You are so right.
Yeah,
He's already done it, and it wasn't that good. You are so. I actually forgot the movie existed, mainly because I've never watched
it's not
it.
That great.
Fully.
It's not that great.
Yeah.
I have watched it.
Yeah,
And
that's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so Zac Efron might be a better choice so far.
Because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would be a good choice because he can also sing. But
Yeah,
as you say, he's already done it. But who said here?
Yeah.
Disney could do it again. You never know.
they could. If not him, Chris Hemsworth might be a good shout.
Can he sing?
I'm not sure if he can sing.
I think his brother can sing. I don't know.
Liam.
Yeah, Liam. I think he can sing. I don't know. I'm gonna have to check that he's been in something that he can sing. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how Disney are doing it. I presume they're doing the whole continuing all the same songs and everything like that, and not doing a complete rehash.
They haven't really announced that as such yet. Whether they're going to do that, but they didn't do that with Mulan until quite late as well. So obviously, like they're kind of keeping. I think they're kind of just putting the feelers out there as such more than saying, "Yep, by the way, this is happening. We're going to do this, and this." So I think it's more just, here's an idea. How would you like it if we did a remake of Hercules? But it's kind of like rubber stamped as happening, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was my first piece. Now,
Excellent.
second piece, and one of my favourite things, is they released the logo for the new Space Jam movie. It's now going to be called Space Jam: A New Legacy. So, in case you didn't know, that's going to be starring LeBron James. I'm hoping Michael Jordan makes a cameo. I'm hoping that Kobe Bryant also gets some sort of mention. I think it would be a really good thing for them to do that. But yeah, it's a film that I'm wildly looking forward to it, as you know. Well, you know how much I love the first one.
Yeah, you never stop talking about the first Space Jam movie, so I can I know you're going to be excited about this one. This is also more in your realm of expertise, because I've actually not seen, as you keep winding me up about, I've not seen Space Jam.
Yeah.
But also I don't know anything about basketball either, so the only reason I know really the names of LeBron James and stuff is because you talk about them.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I like basketball. I'm not a like huge NBA like nerd or whatever. Like I don't watch basketball a lot. But I know like the main players and kind of keep an eye on who's like winning and who's like kind of big at this moment in time. So yeah, I think LeBron James is still playing. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think he might still be playing. So the fact that he's doing a movie and he'll still be playing at the same time, he is still playing. He's playing for the Lakers. That's right. So yeah, that's mental. I think that it's going to be a good film. I hope. I'm putting a lot of money on it being a good film, but I'm also weirdly skeptical.
The thing is with, I feel like Space Jam is more of a cult classic than what would be classed as a good film.
Yeah.
So it's I find it, movie theaters or studios find it difficult to remake cult classics and capture the same kind of magic than they had before.
Yeah.
Like you look at like Zoolander and things like that.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull it off, or whether it's going to be more of a poor imitation of the first one.
Yeah, that's my only worry with it. Kind of what the story's going to be, because obviously I mean, you've not seen it, but it's a very kind of specific story, and it seems to round itself off pretty nicely at the end. So when a sequel was announced, everyone was kind of like, yeah, it's amazing, but then you kind of do think, well, what are they going to do? Because they kind of wrapped it up. Obviously, if you've not seen it, I don't want to spoil it, but fair enough, it's like 20 years old, maybe even older, I don't know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It's a fair disclaimer to make for anyone listening, is that we will be talking extensively about movies, so beware for spoilers.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll just spoil films without even batting an eyelid, without even giving you a warning. It'll just happen, and then Martin will turn to me and goes, "You've just spoiled that without telling." And I'll be like, "Yeah, well, they should have seen it in the first week it was out."
Yeah, well, we will try our best not to spoil things, to be fair, but if it happens, it happens, and we kind of half-heartedly make an apology.
Yeah, that's what I say. I say if you're not willing to see it within the first week, then evidently you don't care that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after those two good bits of news, I have some potentially sad bits of news. These aren't the biggest movie reschedulings because of obviously the current pandemic that's going on. But I have 3 films which in the past week have been delayed, or their new release dates have been announced. So we have Spiral, which is the remake, kind of spin-off from Saw, which Chris Rock is involved in. That was meant to be coming out this summer, but it's now been changed to May the 21st next year. So we're getting that next year and not this year. This one I think will upset you a little bit. John Wick Chapter 4.
Is that?
Yeah, that's been rescheduled. It was supposed to be coming out on the day that Spiral is coming out, May 21, 2021. But that is now coming out on May the 27th, 2022. So it's an extra year kind of added on to that.
Full year added on, yeah. I'm a big fan of the John Wick franchise. At the same time, which is a shame. I really enjoy them, and I think they're really good, especially the first one.
Yeah, I feel like I would enjoy them, but I don't know, like films like that, when it's like somebody's name like attached to it, like that kind of hitman-y film like Jack Reacher and things like that, and Jack Ryan. I've had so many bad experiences with going to see films like that I'm kind of like, did I want to? And then even when the first one came out, Keanu Reeves wasn't really popping like he is now. This was kind of the start of his comeback.
Post Matrix, and then his kind of lull in his career. This really was the first big hit that he brought back out again.
Yeah, and I think that was why I didn't want to see it, because it was like to me it felt like a total B C class movie that I was kind of like, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for like comments like that, because some of the movies I do like are like D class, never mind B C class. I mean, so I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that comment, but
yeah, it's another thing to point out that Stuart, when it comes to movies, will watch literally anything. Apart from John Wick, apparently.
I think it's a case now of, you know how when there's a movie franchise and then you kind of only discover it gets good when it's too far deep. So I feel like it was too far deep before for me to jump back in. I mean, I've got a lot of time. Maybe I will get around to watching it. But it's
we are in lockdown as we're recording this, so you do have quite a lot of time at the moment.
I do. Yes, I've just finished the Star Wars marathon, including Rise of Skywalker. And
fantastic.
I've got 3 films that I'm staring at right now, just across from me, still in the cellophane from the DVDs. So they'll be getting watched soon enough, I think.
And they're next on the list.
They are next on the list. I think after we finish here, I might watch The Gentleman, maybe. I mean, obviously, we've already seen it.
I really enjoyed that film. I really enjoyed that film.
Anyway, the third film to be put back is Antebellum. I don't know much about this movie. I've seen a couple of trailers, and it stars, how do I say, she's a singer, Janelle Monáe, I think her name is. She's been in things like Hidden Figures. Have you seen Hidden Figures? That's a good movie.
I have not seen Hidden Figures.
It's a good movie. It's about the women who were behind the helping them launch the rocket for the first moon mission.
I see.
So they're all like scientists, and it's about how they overcome the fact that they're women and the fact that they're black to kind of fight for their own rights. It's a really good watch. So Antebellum, it was supposed to be coming out last month in April. The release date has now officially been announced for August 20th this year. So that may get changed again, depending
August
on...
20th this year? That's when it's meant to be released?
Yeah, depending on...
I have a feeling that'll get changed again. I don't see the cinemas being fully open by then.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what's happening in other countries. I've seen Italy today. This is obviously a sidetrack, but I've seen Italy today. Loads of pictures of loads of people gathering together again, so that's positive. We obviously being in Britain are still in the lockdown, and we're maybe a couple weeks behind them, maybe even longer than that. Obviously our lockdown's getting looked at again this week, so I still think we've got another 3 weeks ahead of us after this.
Yeah. Well, by the time this podcast goes out, the situation may have changed, but as time of recording, this is the situation that we're in.
So whilst we're talking about dates and whatnot, today when we're recording this is actually May the 4th. So
that's right.
Happy Star Wars Day to you, Martin.
Happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you.
Yes. And whilst we're talking about Star Wars, today on May the 4th, there has been an announcement that Taika Waititi of Thor Ragnarok fame and other movies has been announced to be making a Star Wars movie.
Has he?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've heard this news.
It's about 2 hours old.
Wow.
Literally, all I know
right.
is he's been announced for a Star Wars movie. That's all that's out
right.
there. There's no date, there's no story, there's no trilogy. It's just he's been announced for one.
Well, that is awesome news for me. As it's Taika Waititi is genuinely one of my favorite directors right now. Yep. I loved his work on Thor Ragnarok and
Jojo
Rabbit as well. I've not seen his previous films that he's made yet. But the two that I have seen him make as director, I thought they were both fantastic. I also have seen the series The Mandalorian, in which he directed the final episode.
Yeah, I did. See, when that came up at the end, I was like, no way! But that's why I asked if you had watched it yet. And you were like, no, I've not watched it, because I was going to send you the photo of that, but then I thought, if he's not watched it, I won't do it.
Yeah, because all I knew about Taika Waititi being part of that was that he played the voice of the robot in the first episode.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he directed an episode, but that was a great episode as well. So I loved his work. So the fact that he's now been given at least some form of Star Wars movie to make is really exciting.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, as soon as I heard that, I was kind of thinking, well, what one or what kind of story could it be? So obviously, it's going to be one that's maybe a bit eccentric. I'm maybe thinking, I don't know, like a Lando Calrissian story, or I can't see him making like the Obi-Wan spin-off. I think that's going to Disney Plus anyway.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, there's a Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series announced.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, it depends if. I mean, I don't imagine they would do this, but it depends. They might be aiming to do 3 seasons of Mandalorian and then a movie.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because I believe they've announced 3 seasons.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Especially with how popular it is. Like, obviously, we've just seen the ending of it last week. Because we got it later than America. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see as more news comes out, because he's supposed to do one. I think they may have canned the one that Rian Johnson, the one who did Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I think they might have canned him doing a series, not a series, a trilogy he was down to do. And then there was the Game of Thrones writers as well, which, I mean, I don't watch Game of Thrones, but from what I've heard, a Game of Thrones writers doing anything is a challenge. Have you got something to say to that? Just apparently, apparently the last season wasn't very, very good.
That's it's a debatable subject. Not that we really want to delve too far into.
Well, I've not got a horse in the race, so.
But yeah, in my personal opinion, of the final series of Game of Thrones, was that it felt very rushed in terms of they could have spread it out across 2 full seasons.
Yeah.
And told it that the pacing was just like they were like plowing out all the episodes.
Yeah. Obviously that comes. Sorry, on you go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the individual episodes, as if you watch them as standalone episodes, were fantastic in my opinion. But I felt they were so rushed that everything was crammed in, and it lost something, in my opinion.
Obviously, with it being rushed, they announced that they were doing less episodes. Obviously with a cast, which obviously I've said about 4 times now, but the cast were huge in name by that point. Your Kit Haringtons, Emilia Clarke's, even Gwendolyn Christie. They were all getting work out with Game of Thrones. So trying to keep that schedule as well must have been challenging for them. And then they go, right, who do we have? When can we do this? Squeeze it in, blah blah blah. But yeah. And
it'll be interesting to know as well with that what the contracts were, whether they only had people signed on to a certain time. Or not, I don't know.
We don't work in the business, we just watch it.
Yeah, we just watch them. Yeah. Anyway, we're digressing.
Yes. So that is all my news for this week, rounding off with some Star Wars news on May the 4th. So yeah, do you want to take us into what we're going to be doing now?
Yeah, sure. So now we're going to go into reviewing the first movie. What we've decided to do is, because the cinemas are closed at the moment because of the lockdown, we can't review many new films. There are a few still getting released on like Netflix and things, but in general, there's not a lot of films getting released right now. So what we've decided to do during the lockdown is to sort of review kind of our more or less all-time sort of favourite films and explain why, and just sort of delve into them and see where we go talking about some of these films.
Mm-hmm.
So this week, the movie that I have chosen is the first Avengers movie, Marvel Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
And the reason I chose that film is it holds a really special place in my heart, because I feel like it was the first movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe for me is huge. It's my favorite
Yeah.
movie franchise. I love pretty much everything that they do. I love where they've taken it, and this is the first movie that really launched that for me. I had seen the other ones, and I kind of, as we knew at the time, I remember the time for the Avengers getting released in the cinemas was nearing, and I was making sure to go back and watch them because I hadn't seen them all the first time they came out. I kind of caught on a little bit late, and then as I kind of seen a couple of them, I went back and made sure I'd seen them all. There was 5 movies before the Avengers got released, and then once the Avengers came out and I saw it, and I was absolutely blown away with how amazing it was because no movie had ever done what the Avengers did to that extent and how well they did it in terms of bringing individual movies together and to create one mega crossover film, which was more than a crossover film because it wasn't just like, oh, we're having a standalone crossover event. It's the tying in of a universe, and it had never been done before.
Yeah.
So it holds a really special place in my heart. One of the things I wanted to talk about when looking at this film again, and trying to delve into the technicalities of why I love it so much, apart from just being the first movie to launch this cinematic universe. One of the things that I thought was, as I touched on there at the beginning, was that each of these characters of the main sort of 4 characters all had a solo movie, and it done so well in such a way that I feel other franchises have tried to copy and fail, like DC.
DC.
DC, the DC universe. Because what Marvel did was, because they gave all of these characters a solo film to begin with, they had so much time to develop each individual character, show their backstory, show who they are as a character over the space of a film first, so that you could go into each of those before Avengers was released, more or less standalone movies, and kind of and get to know the characters and get to empathize with who they are and what their motives are, and everything, then leading into the Avengers, which I think is really cool, because by the time you get to the Avengers, they don't need to spend any time explaining, who's this character and who's that character, and how do they know. You already know all of that leading into the film because they've had 5 films to explain it. And then when they launch into the Avengers movie, they just really focused on plot points, character interactions with each other, and getting into action instead of having to do a lot of explaining.
I think that's what they did so well as well, is the character interactions, because obviously throughout the film you seen that they were all pretty divided, and there was a lot of ego throughout the different members, especially those main members, but your Steve Rogers, your Tony Starks, and your Thors. Obviously the 3 of them, especially Tony and Thor, obviously there's that great scene they have where the 3 of them are fighting each other basically. And I think that's one thing Marvel did extremely well throughout that film, was just having these people be so far apart, but then having one thing that they go, right, okay, you know what, this is something we need to fight for. And obviously that was, Coulson's death. That's what's kind of put down to. But obviously, I think that more than it being the big thing that made them turn to fight with each other, I think it was more a case of what it kind of stood for is, this is an innocent who's been taken down. This guy didn't do anything. This guy doesn't have powers. This guy was out of his league, and no one could defend him. He couldn't defend himself. So I think that's what kind of turned them all.
And I think Coulson's also one of the characters who, when you look at me, he doesn't really have. You say like all the superheroes generally up till this point, when they meet each other, kind of clashing heads with each other, and Coulson's never had that with pretty much anyone throughout his time in the MCU. He more or less was always the man on the side, sort of working for
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Us.
He was us. That's what he was.
Yeah.
He was humans.
Yeah. And he was doing his bit, and he was doing his best, and I love the scene when he's talking to Captain America about his trading cards and wanting to get him to sign them, and how they're mint condition and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Because he, like you say, he is like us, and he knows these superheroes, and he's a super fan,
Yeah.
and he's getting to meet them, and so yeah, so once he gets killed, spoiler alert, for anyone who hasn't seen a film that was released 8 years ago,
Yeah. I was about to say it was eight
um,
years ago.
um, so Coulson gets killed by Loki, stabs him through the chest, unless you believe the events that happen in Agents of Shield, in which he's still alive, but in the cinematic universe, Coulson dies.
Yeah, he's dead and he's
And
never mentioned again.
yeah, so yeah, so that event in the film really does bring the team together.
Mhm.
So like you say, to more or less, I think it also helps them use the play on word to avenge him.
Yeah.
But it really does make the team reevaluate themselves, because I think each character going into that film went in to those events with their own motivations, and not they were all in it for themselves, more or
Yeah.
less. From the notes I've got here, so Iron Man sort of goes into it when Coulson first goes to Stark Tower and says, "I need to speak to you," and goes in. Tony really only does it because up until this point he hasn't. He probably knows of Steve Rogers, but he
Mhm.
hasn't met him
Mhm.
because he's only just been unfrozen.
Yeah.
He'll know of the Hulk, but hasn't met him.
Yeah.
He's just seen him on the news. But the Hulk's just sort of a beast, and he probably hasn't even heard of Thor up until this point, apart from like the mythology, but not the actual person. So he's really the only superhero at that moment in time that he knows of. So he really sees himself as sort of the hero and the big man. So
Yeah.
when this he sees the Shield are coming to him with a serious event, he certainly goes into it with his own ego.
Yeah. That he's the
Going,
star of
yeah,
the
well,
show.
yeah, I'm the star of the show. I'll walk in, I'll save everyone, don't worry,
Yeah.
sort of attitude. But Captain America going into it, he's more just going into it looking to find a place in the world. He's just been unfrozen, and doesn't really know what to do. Nick Fury goes to him and says, "Look, I want to get you." Steve Rogers asks, "Are you trying to get me back into the world?" And he says, "No, saving it." He really is just there following orders again, finding someone to follow orders for, and also he sees that it's the Tesseract again.
Yeah.
Um, so that's his motivation really,
Yeah.
is to stop the the bad guys, in that sense, Loki abusing the Tesseract for bad use. Um, Bruce Banner's only in it to try and get information from Shield because he doesn't trust them and he thinks he's just been used.
Yeah.
And Thor's
He's
really
he's
only
he's kind of in it to prevent, something happening to him, because obviously when they
yeah
came and got him, they surrounded him. So if he knew, if he could have escalated that situation, but he didn't want to escalate that situation. So he was just
yeah
like, well, I've just got to come then.
yeah
So
yeah yeah, and the point with that as well, when he was on the helicarrier and they suddenly realised that he's been researching stuff
yeah,
to do with hydro weapons and things, and he was like, yeah, well, I'm not just here because you asked nicely.
yeah,
Um, so he doesn't trust them, and he's trying to investigate things as well. And Thor really only turns up just to get Loki and bring him home.
yeah,
Because up until this point, Thor believes Loki's dead. So
yeah.
once he discovers that Loki's alive on Earth,
That's it.
wanting to rule it, he's like, I'm also in the first Thor movie, Thor did say that he was gonna like help protect Earth,
Yeah,
or their allies certainly. So when he sees him on Earth want to take over and he's alive, he just has to use whatever dark magic they have to get to Earth and just to bring him back, basically. So
yeah.
that's his only motivation.
Aye,
And it really is, as the film develops and as you say, the heroes lock heads and don't get on, especially Captain America and Iron Man about square go, and Captain America's like, put on the suit, we'll go a few rounds. They're not pally at all,
no,
and it's only as the events of the film move on, Coulson gets killed and the team suddenly unify in the Battle of New York. Once the aliens start invading, when they suddenly realise that their own agendas aren't as important as what's happening,
yeah,
and they all need to team up together and work together as a team of superheroes to defeat this thing. No one of those heroes is big enough in themselves to save it, to save the
yeah.
world.
It's like, what film is it that is like, oh, that's an Avengers level threat? Spider-Man Far From Home. When
Yes.
so that's what it is. It's they know at a point that this isn't, oh, I can't do this on my own. I can't do this. Right, when they toys then. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, just if you allow me to interject, I took a few notes of my kind of feelings, just a few things, because obviously I didn't want to steal, I didn't want to steal your thunder, so I just kind of want to talk about my kind of experience with the film.
Yep, sure.
So actually, kind of almost the same as you. This was the first Marvel film I ever saw.
Is it the first?
The first one.
So up
I
until this
came
point,
straight
you had
in.
never seen. Wow.
I'd never seen any of them. And the reason for that is obviously like I was never really a huge fan of like the heroes who were in it. So I mean, I maybe the Hulk, but not really like Iron Man, Captain America,
Yeah.
Black Widow,
Yeah.
Hawkeye,
Yeah, because up until this point, none of these
Thor.
characters were particularly
No,
main characters. They're all B characters.
Yeah, they were all kind of put together because that's what Marvel could afford at the time.
Yeah, because they'd already sold a lot of their major properties to
Yeah.
Sony and Fox and things like that.
Yeah, because I was a Spider-Man kid, like even growing up, like even now, obviously with Disney Plus, I'm working my way through, the Spider-Man cartoon from 1998, which I remember watching every other day at home.
Yeah.
So there's that. One of my favourite shots in cinema is in this film. I have two favourite, in fact, three of my all-time favourite shots come in Marvel films. And this one is obviously, everybody knows it. It's the one where the camera comes down and it spins round them all and they're all getting ready. And I just think that's one of the most iconic, one of the best cinematic shots. And
I still get.
Yeah, and I
still
know
get
what you're gonna
chills.
say. I still get chills as well. Yeah. So that's kind of all I really had to say in it. I didn't really go too in depth because I didn't want to steal your thunder. But I do have some fun facts, Martin. I do have some fun facts for you. Yep,
Okay,
about the film itself.
hit me.
Right,
Hit
here
me
we
with
go.
them.
Fun fact number one. I almost interrupted you earlier when you were talking about the scene with Tony when he first finds out about the rest of the Avengers. Now, did you know? Have you ever thought, why was Pepper Potts not wearing any shoes in that scene? Well,
I've never thought
have you
that.
never thought that?
Well, I've never noticed.
No. Well, I noticed she wasn't wearing shoes. Not because I'm weird and like feet, but it's just like, why is she not wearing any shoes? And I get she's in her house, and then somebody said that it was to make her show that she's a bit more relaxed, she's a bit more like laid back than like Tony and all this kind of stuff. But no, that wasn't the reason at all. Gwyneth Paltrow is actually 5'9", and Robert Downey Jr. is only 5'8". Apparently. So they made her. Well, she kind of they made her take her shoes off, and they gave him a platform heel, so he would be taller.
So
than
he's taller than her. Wow, I've never. That's that's a really interesting fact to know that they didn't like the idea that the woman or the side character is taller than the hero.
It comes back to this thing that they do in wrestling sometimes, something to do with the way they shoot announcers when how people do backstage interviews. The way they shoot those is they shoot it at an angle that it makes the wrestler look a lot more taller than the person giving the interview. So it's like those kind of things, because it obviously makes you feel like that person's the power.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, with it being a woman, you can maybe argue it might be a bit sexist and whatnot, but I disagree. I think it was a case of, well, why doesn't she not wear shoes in other scenes? So obviously it can't just, it's something to do with, I think in that moment, it kind of accentuates the power that Tony thinks he has. Now, I wouldn't have been surprised if she had came in, or wherever she was, she had come in and he said, "I have to take your shoes off," because he knows she's taller than him. So I think it's all unwritten stuff, and maybe it is the fluidity, and maybe it is making her seem like she's all laid back and whatever. I don't know. I'm not Joss Whedon, but that is apparently, it's been stated in interviews that was the reason Robert Downey Jr. came out and said that. Now, you can take that with a grain of salt in itself, because it's Robert Downey Jr. and he likes to wind people up. So that was fact number one. Fact number two. This one, you will appreciate this one. I know you will appreciate this one. So it turns out because they were all so busy, and they didn't have many scenes to actually film all together. But when they did actually have scenes where everyone was in it, Chris Evans would text everyone just saying assemble.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's
So
cool.
they'd all be sat in their trailers, and then it'd be time for them to, they'd go, right, we're doing a full scene, and he would just text everyone saying assemble. Clark Gregg said it's the best text he's ever received in his whole entire life.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
That just little nuggets like that is what makes me happy inside, to know
yeah,
that when given that situation, that Captain America is going to text his workmates to get them to assemble.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I was going to say, here's a fun fact that I know. Hopefully it's not one you're about to say.
Okay.
Is that Captain America does not say assemble in Avengers Assemble.
No, he does not. He doesn't say it at all until
He doesn't say it until
Endgame.
Endgame.
Yeah. That wasn't
Which
the
is
fact I had.
something.
You're okay.
No, that's cool. It's just when you were talking about that then, but it just came into my mind there that it's something that I didn't realise until someone else pointed it out to me. And then I'm like, oh, really? And then when I realised, actually, he had never actually said Avengers Assemble. He came close at the end of Ultron.
Yeah.
But he never actually said it. So that was a fun
I
fact
remember
for you.
I remember sitting in the cinema for that scene in Age of Ultron, and I remember them, him going, he gets them all down, and then they all appear, and you're like, oh, this is the new Avengers, and then he goes, Avengers, and then obviously you expect him to say assemble. I remember sitting in the cinema and turning to my mate and going, he's not going to say it. And then it went, boom. I told you. I said they're saving it for the big one. So anyway, my last fact, and you may know this one, I believe that this one is actually quite well known. So because they filmed the scene at the end when they're all eating shawarma.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was filmed so last minute that they had to call everyone back. And it turns out that Chris Evans was already filming Snowpiercer.
Yeah, Snowpiercer.
Yep.
I don't know whether you've seen Snowpiercer.
I've not seen Snowpiercer. No,
I have seen Snowpiercer. It's a very interesting film.
So he has a beard in Snowpiercer, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so he had the beard when he came back, so that is why they only shoot Captain America from behind and with his hand over his face, so you can't see the beard. So that was the third one.
Yeah, I believe they left that shoot so late that they shot it after
press screenings.
After the press screen. I can't remember whether it was a premiere or just press screening.
Press screenings and premiere.
Yeah. So they'd done that, and they done it straight after that because it was the only time that all the cast would be together. Yeah, it was then. So they pretty much just rushed everyone to location after that and shot the scene.
Yeah, well, you think it'd only take a couple hours.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe. And it was so worth it because everyone still remembers it till this day. The iconic, we should get shawarma, and then end credits. They're all sitting. Yeah.
I've never had shawarma. I'll be honest.
Neither have I.
I've seen it advertised.
I probably wouldn't like it, to be honest.
No, I think I looked at it and then I kind of read what it was, and I kind of went, nah, that's probably not my bag. So yeah. But that is all my facts for this week.
That's your facts.
On Avengers Assemble. As you know, I'm a big fan of comics, so actually, it was actually this that kind of sparked off my love of comics, and then going back and watching the Marvel films, because obviously, you only get so many Marvel films a year, and you only get so many stories, so it was going to...
Sorry, I'm laughing because most franchises only release a film every 2 years, and as Marvel fans, we get about 3 Marvel films, and it's still only 3 a year.
Well, that's the thing, right? Marvel in itself is a studio, so Universal release so many a year, and this, that, and that thing. But anyway, I remember kind of getting to the point where I'm like, oh, but I want more stories. I want to know more about these characters. I want to research more. So I just went, and luckily where I lived at the time, there was a comic shop in the centre of town. And the guy was like really cool. Like, say you started a line, like, say for example, I got like Guardians of the Galaxy #1, that had just been released. He'd go, right, as these come in, do you want me to keep them for you? Like, and you'd be like, yep, cool. So
Yeah.
you'd never miss one because you go in and you'd get 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'd see people going in there like and not picking up stuff for weeks, and their bills coming to like triple figures and all this kind of stuff. I was like,
Wow.
man, that's mental. So, but
Yeah.
obviously, where we are, we stay in a little town called Straven, and there is not a comic shop to be seen. In fact, there's not even. I think the nearest comic shop. I've not done fully like research into it, but the only one that I probably know of is obviously Forbidden Planet in Glasgow. And I don't like the way they lay stuff out, so I get really confused. So I'm just like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a comic fan. I've never really read comics. I see the appeal,
Yeah.
but it's nothing I've ever got into.
Yeah,
But I like the fact that if you do start, like you say, episode 1 or of a comic, that you have someone like that to keep the issues that come in the right order behind for you, because that's one of the things that's always put me off about comics, is never knowing where to start.
yeah,
You see a
that was
random,
the same with me.
yeah,
Yeah, that was the same with me. But I say unfortunately, fortunately, one of the guys I was at uni with, he was dead into comics, and in fact, 2 of them were. And I took a lot of advice from him. I'm like, look, where do you start? And he goes, just pick a line. Just pick one of the new lines and start at number 1, or one that's just been released and buy up to what's there. He said, just do that, or pick a hero you like and then ask them at the counter. Just be like, what graphic novels
Yeah.
have you got on this? What issues? What first issues have you got on this kind of stuff?
that's cool.
I mean,
That's cool.
I bought DC comics and everything. I'm not a DC hater. I should put that out there. But
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
neither am I. I just personally don't think that the most recent DC EU movies have been very good.
Aquaman is
Bar
good.
bar
Aquaman.
bar Aquaman and bar Wonder Woman. I enjoyed both of those films. I thought they were very good. But the majority of them, in terms of your Batman versus Superman, Man of Steel, Suicide Squad, Justice League, all of those films I thought were very, especially Justice League, but were very under par, underwhelming, and I felt like they were trying to rush to try and create what Marvel had created, but in a much shorter space of time, to try and catch up almost. And I
Yeah.
feel they suffered massively for it, because it was so much crammed into those films that they became a mess, in
Aye,
my opinion.
they tried to catch up far too quickly. Like Marvel took what 4 years. What's her name? DC. They tried to do what Marvel did in 4 in half the time. So you're like, I don't really know. I don't really
Yeah.
care about these
I
people
mean,
because obviously it's the same characters that they've been releasing films for ages, a la your Supermans, your Batmans. But that's the thing. Like every Batman is different. Like you can't put Christian Bale's Batman beside Ben Affleck's and go, aye, they're the same Batman. They're not. Everybody's is so
yeah,
different.
yeah, exactly. Because I personally loved the Christopher Nolan Batman
Yeah,
trilogy. That was fantastic.
Best
Yeah,
Batman films, right?
incredible.
Country Mile.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think a lot of people might take issue with Ben Affleck's Batman.
Mm.
I don't actually have I mean, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I don't have a major issue with him as Batman. I
Yeah, I don't.
feel like he's not been given any good um
Material.
scripts,
Yeah,
any good material. He's not had his own film.
yeah,
I think he was meant to be doing his own film. I think he was meant to be
yeah.
writing it.
He was writing
And
it,
that fell.
and Matt Reeves was directing it. I'm pretty sure. Or no, it's
Yeah,
Matt.
and
No,
that
Matt Reeves is doing it now. He's doing Robert Pattinbat. He's
right.
doing his.
Yeah, so I don't feel he particularly did a bad job, but there was no good material for him.
No.
Um, and
What I
everything
did.
was just so squished together.
Yeah. What I did hear about Ben Affleck's Batman, which makes me disappointed that we're not going to see it, is that it was going to be set like the Raid. So it's going to be
Yeah,
set in
yeah,
Arkham Asylum, and they were going to do it like the Raid, which I would have been all for. I would have right enjoyed that. I think.
it would have been very cool to see a badass Batman
Mhm.
that is just kicking butt up and down, and having to climb. If they're doing it like the Raid and having to climb up the levels, in Arkham and fighting different types of people and whatever else characters. I presume he would be trying to get the Joker. I presume that's what the movie would be.
Yeah, I believe that was it was going to be Jared Leto's Joker. I believe that was the end goal of it. But hey ho, I don't think, part of me thinks that, yeah, we are at a miss for that, but also part of me thinks Jared Leto's Joker. So,
yeah. Yeah. As I say, maybe one day we might get on to actually reviewing those movies. So,
so when we do the worst movies we've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. We could easily do a list of movies that we thought were pretty terrible. And believe me, we have seen a few stinkers in our time.
Yep.
So that leads us to the end of our podcast. So yeah, thank you for listening. If you're out there, we appreciate you listening.
Are you listening?
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully you've enjoyed us rambling on about Avengers and other movie topics.
Yep.
Next week we're going to be reviewing one of Stuart's top picks for his favourite films of all time. Stuart, do you want to tell us what that is?
I do. It is Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back.
It is an absolute classic.
In fact, do you know what? It's while we're talking about iconic Star Wars movies, Revenge of the Sith, man. Oh, I love it.
You love Revenge of the Sith?
Oh, I do. Just not because of the quality of the film. I know we're digressing here, but I need to talk about it. Does it need to be addressed? Not the quality of the film, but just the memeability of the film is amazing. I love every for some reason, TikTok just keeps recommending people reenacting Star Wars scenes to me, and it's the one where obviously it's the your new empire. That one, the one where they come off the ship at before they have their big fight. I've brought peace, justice, something else to my new empire. Your new empire. You're supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. That scene.
Yeah. It's very memeable.
I keep getting that, and then obviously I have the high ground, and then the high ground is another, and then the one where they've just killed. Spoilers for a film which is 2003, 17 years old. Whoa.
Very old.
Whoa. I think it was 2003. It might be 2005. I may have made a mistake there. Oh well, that's my homework for next week. But anyway, when he boots Mace Windu gets Mace Windu out the window. Hey, Windu out the window. Windu out the window. And then it's what have I done? So that's my one. Yeah. And then obviously from
the obvious you underestimate my power.
Yeah. And also the classic hello there. I mean, that's Attack of the Clones, actually, is it? No, it's not. Is it Attack of the Clones? I'd have to go by Obi-Wan here. No, hello there's that's Revenge of the Sith as well.
Hello there.
It must be. See, I've had a Western Supermare if that's not the case. But hey ho, I've made a lot of outrageous claims in this podcast. Things that might be right and might be wrong. So anyway, next week, not Revenge of the Sith, The Empire Strikes Back is what I'm going to be looking at next week.
Awesome. I look forward to it. I hope you guys join us again. That's been me, Martin Cowan.
And me, Stuart Ryan Cinnamon.
Signing off. Thanks for listening.